Welcome from America with Ayman. It's been a long time since I meet with my friend Mark Evanu. How you doing, Mark?
Doing fantastic, Ayman. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So first, before I start everything, I want to congratulate you for your new baby. Congratulations from me
Thank
and
you
my
very much.
community.
I appreciate it. He's a little over 2 months old now and going strong.
Congratulations for your new baby. And everyone, you know, Mark Evanu is not new for the channel. Maybe we have just long time don't meet since the election. So for the people who watching Mark for the first time, Mark is an attorney and he was in the Trump um, um, first campaign. Also, he is the CEO and the founder for Republican for National Renewal. It's a political group. He is the CEO and the founder for this group. And this is not the first time, but I just introduce you, Mark, for the people who are watching us for the first time. Thank you for
Right,
being
makes
with me
sense.
today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you to your audience for tuning in.
Thank you so much. So before we start, you told me you like my hat, right?
Yes, that's a beautiful hat, and you have the
I look
American
for the
flag pin. And I
yes, sir.
said you look more American than me.
Thank you so much. So, regarding to the hat, did you watch the new collection for the hats in the Trump store about 2028? You see, did you see this one?
Yes, I did. I
Yeah.
absolutely did. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good topic actually to talk about this today because when I see this for the first time, I say, "What? Are he's going to the third term? He's trying to go to the third term." That's why I call you. I say, "Hey, Mark, let's talk about this," because I think a lot of people, probably some of the people, they don't watch this in the media, and some watch this,
Mhm.
but this is grab attention for all the Americans, or even for non-American people, for the people living abroad, watching us from every place in the world, and the people who start talking us this Trump planning to go the third term. We will talk about this, but let me ask you first: is he eligible to run for the third term?
Well, look, as of right now, the way the laws are set up and with the Constitution, particularly the 22nd Amendment, he is not eligible to be on the ballot for 2028.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that there aren't people looking to change that, and it doesn't mean that there aren't ways that he could still be a president for a third term. And I can get into that here in a little bit if you'd like. But as far as putting his name on the ballot for 2028, he is technically not eligible at this moment.
Okay, but did he show some interest in to be in the third term or anything? Because I know you following the media probably more than me, and you as you are a politician and attorney, you're involved in all of this. So, do you think he's interested, or he like maybe have some interviews or anything? He's interested to run for the third term?
Sure. Well, let me give you and your audience a little background here. So, Representative Andy Ogles out of Tennessee, he proposed legislation to amend the 22nd Amendment.
Mhm.
And the legislation essentially said, um, if you're a president who has not ran two consecutive terms, and so most presidents, at least in our lifetime, all presidents, they
Mhm.
have ran two terms back to back, right? President Trump had his second term stolen from him, and now he has his rightful term. And so he had one term, and then he lost, right? And
Mhm.
then he has a second term. And so the amendment to the 22nd that Congressman Ogles proposed would mean that if you've only ran one term, not consecutively, you should be allowed to run a consecutive term. So
Okay.
if you did one term, you missed one, another term, you should be able to run one more term. And
Mhm.
so that put the leftists in a frenzy. Even some Republicans had concerns about this. They said, "Well, uh, doesn't that mean Obama could run again?"
Oh yeah.
Well, as I said, he could not under the proposed terms of the
Mhm.
legislation. Obama already ran two consecutive terms.
Yeah. Back to back.
So, right, back to back. So
Uh-huh.
he would not be eligible even if this bill were to pass, this
Mhm.
modification.
Mhm.
So it's very, very well drafted from a legal perspective. Now, in terms of getting it passed, that's a big challenge. But so Congressman Andy Ogles proposed that, and then I know the founder and head of Third Term Project. He
Hmm.
was at CPAC. I was there with him, and we did a press conference. So
Hmm.
all these big media outlets, especially a lot of leftist ones, were really salivating at this idea because their fantasy. You always hear them talking about it on the fake news. They say, "Oh, Trump's not going to run for election. He's going to take power." He's
Hmm.
going to be a strong man. He's authoritarian. And so
Hmm.
they always fantasize about this. We're saying, well, no, but there is legislation proposed for him to run for a third term.
Hmm.
And the idea behind it is that it's guaranteed. So he could run for a third term,
Hmm.
and there's a possibility that he's not elected. We're simply saying, put it in the hands of the people. And
Hmm.
so after we had that press conference, the media just went crazy with it. Shane Trejo, who is the head of the Third Term Project, he was interviewed by TMZ. He had other big outlets reaching out to him. I think what is it? CBS was reaching out to him and a few others. But anyway, it was huge news. You may have seen it. It got to Trump. President Trump
Hmm.
joked that he would like to run for a third term. Steve Bannon took the idea and ran with it. He's been talking about it. I know recently President Trump did step back and say, I'm not actually considering a third term.
Hmm.
But then there's also been legal scholars who have said, well, here's a way that President Trump could have a third term is
Hmm.
if he ran as a vice president for JD Vance or whoever the Republican nominee ends up being. And then once they're elected, if they step down, well, President Trump is president once again. So that's what they would call a loophole. Yes, there is a movement for President Trump's third term, and a third term project was kind of a group that was wanting to kind of gather the grassroots support for it. And a lot of people were opposed, but a lot were actually in favor. I think probably more than 50% of Republicans President Trump to the third term so he could really make America great because 4 years, I don't think is enough time.
Yes. Yes. So, as he is not eligible, as the current situation for the Constitution doesn't allow him to run for the third term. But I think most of the Republican will support the idea, or if there is a project for a bill for amend the Constitution. So do you think there's an effort, there's an actual effort for the Republican representative or the Republican Party to amend the Constitution so that can allow Trump to run for the third term?
Well, I think as of right now, it's a contentious issue,
Mhm.
and we may not see that come to fruition. But I think it's positive in that even introducing that legislation
Mhm.
puts it on the map. People are thinking about it. I know there's a lot of patriotic members of Congress who would support it. Obviously, it's a controversial topic, and so as of right now, I think it's going to be tough. And it's really founding fathers made the Constitution so that it could be it would require huge support from the country.
Mhm.
Now we're so divided that I can't even think of a constitutional amendment, no matter how popular it would be with the people,
Mhm.
that would get passed at this point because the people in Congress are so divided that
Yeah.
uh, the Constitution isn't really functioning the way it probably.
Yeah.
Um, and President Trump won with such an overwhelming victory this last time. He overcame the margin of fraud. We know people were cheating and trying to steal the election again, but
Mhm.
he did such a good job that he won not only the electoral college, but he won the popular vote. And so if that's not a message to, the politicians, especially the Democrats, I don't know what would be. And you'd think that you'd allow something that would carve out a way that if a president is that significant and that popular with the people, they should be allowed to run again. And by the way, for even for history, for you and your audience, there were no term limits up until about the 50s when they finally instituted them because one of the presidents he ran four terms. On his fourth term, he got ill,
Mhm.
and so he couldn't run anymore. But this is not like this was not an original amendment. Let's put it that way. The 22nd Amendment came around more recently. It's been around for less than 100 years. And so I know people in our lifetime think it's a crazy idea that a president could have a third term, but This is kind of a more of a product of modernity and not a historical fact.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I think even if we have this bill, I think to pass, it should be, I think 60% of the voters should vote for it, like 6% or more, to pass the bill like this, to amend the constitution.
Yeah, it would be a supermajority from the state legislatures
Okay.
in
And
order to.
yes. So I know it's still early to ask this question because we still in the first 6 months for President Trump. But and when we talk about the 2028 elections, um, do you think who could be like a potential candidates for this election 2028? Because I think 2028 probably will be hotter than 2024, especially because the situation of the Democrat Party is not the best. So,
Right. And that's um, from talking to the grassroots and seeing where people are at. It seems like JD Vance would be the top pick. I
mm,
can't think of anyone else. But that said, anyone who President Trump endorses is going to have a significant advantage. So for someone else, now it might be a pretty close call. But assuming that President Trump either endorses JD Vance or doesn't endorse anyone, I
mhm.
think JD Vance wins it. On the Democrat side, they've been. I just saw a video where they were promoting Stephen Smith as a potential runner. He's been
No.
saying, "No, I'm not going to run, but
No.
I'm not turning it down." I know Gavin Newsom in California has been considered as well. So probably one of those guys. And I think they are kind of position themselves. At least Gavin Newsom is. He's walking back some of the woke stuff. He's realizing it's not working. Maybe he can
He
trick
should retire early
it.
because California had enough. So I think he
Yeah,
should.
well, I think a very good talking point would be, well, if you want America to look like California, then vote for
Yeah.
this guy. But people are fleeing California. That's a sinking ship.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to beat him if you have a competent and likable candidate on the Republican side.
Great. Great. I know the conversation with you is never stop. And I appreciate your time. I know you have a lot of projects you work in. Thank you for finding time to me today. I know it was busy and hectic time for you this week, but again, thank you for this short conversation. But we will definitely continue, guys. Please, if you have any questions, don't be shy to ask it in the comments section below. Mark, I know he's busy, but I promise I will deliver all your questions to him. If you have any questions about the elections, constitution amendments, anything you feel that will help or increase your knowledge about the topic we're talking about today, please feel free to write it down in the comment section if you watch me from the YouTube channel, or you're watching on the Facebook. Also, be generous with the like to Mark Evania, not for me. So put 2 likes, one for him, one for me. Okay. Thank you again, Mark, for being with me today. I know your time is very critical. I appreciate you being with me today, and thank you so much for answering the questions. And um, please find another time to be with me. We have a lot of questions we need to cover about the politics for this country to make it great again.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Ayman, always. Thank you again for having me on in. And I agree that if your audience sends questions, I'd be happy to come on again and just go help people understand things from my perspective, or at least from the conservative side. I know when you look at the media, you might think America is very liberal, but
Yeah.
in reality, most
You.
are kind of in the middle, but mostly conservative. And so, it's my pleasure to talk about these topics, and I'd be happy to be on soon in the near future.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you again, and thank you for being with me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us today. It was my pleasure to have my friend Mark Evanu, the CEO and the founder for Republican for National Renewal. He and the great attorney one of my best Republican friends. I always proud to have him in my show. Thank you so much, Mark, for being with me today.